welcome to our video resource for Grade 10 course planning. This resource is meant to offer initial guidance to students and families about the course selection process for Grade 11 and Grade 12. Now, this is a very important process, and it is important from at least two different points of view. On the one hand, as we know, it is key that students choose their grade 11 and grade 12 courses on the basis of their own ambitions and interests, talents and strengths. There is a very, very clear correlation between levels of happiness and enjoyment of the curriculum and in general of life in the senior school on the one hand, and appropriate course selection on the other hand. At the same time, of course, there is also a correlation between the course selection for grade 11 and 12 on the one hand, and the sort of university and career ambitions that our students have. So it is important to get this selection right from the beginning to ensure that our students feel happy, they have fun while learning in grade 11 and 12, and at the same time that they feel as well prepared as possible for their career plans or their university plans. Now, in the coming months, there will be much consultation with students and families, both at grade level. We will have a subject fair in January and a series of taster lessons for all our grade 10 students who will be able to attend a selection of grade 11 and grade 12 classes during the winter camp week, but also at the level of individual students. Myself, Catherine Clark, Heather Nolan Wood, and the University Counselling team will be meeting as of January, February, with individually with all our grade 10 students and families to really work on the best possible combination of courses, which of course will differ vastly from student to student because it absolutely needs to reflect individual strengths, talents, and ambitions. So as you can see, the course planning process is fully outlined in this slide. We will start next week with our meeting about course selection, and this will then be followed by conversations among students and teachers around possibilities, all the incredible possibilities that our students can select from for grade 11 and 12. Then, as I've mentioned before, we will have a course fair in January, followed by a few days of taster lessons that will then in turn be discussed within advisory groups prior to the individual meetings that each student and family will have with the senior school's leadership team and the university counselling department. As a way of introduction, and you will hear much more about this from Catherine Clark in a moment, but we do have two main pathways to graduation at Mulgrave in grade 11 and 12. One is the IB Diploma, which requires selecting 6 different subjects, the same subjects for 2 years, 3 at higher level, 3 at standard level, and that will allow our students who choose this pathway to graduation to graduate with 2 qualifications. One is the BC Ministry Diploma, the so-called Dogwood Diploma, and the other one is the International Baccalaureate Diploma. The other pathway to graduation is as many of you know, is an enriched pathway to graduation, which is really reflective of a more personalized approach built around each student's out-of-school commitments, strengths and talents and ambitions, and that really allows students to pick and choose which subjects they would like to study at which level in preparation for their chosen post-secondary route. Students who choose an enriched pathway to graduation will graduate also with a set of different qualifications. They will, of course, achieve the BC Ministry Diploma, the Dogwood Diploma, but they will also typically choose, a few subjects. How many will depend on each student's circumstances, a few subjects that they will study for IB credit. Now, this enriched pathway to graduation comes with additional flexibility in terms of the duration of each course. While students who complete the IB diploma will need to study the same 6 subjects in grade 11 and 12. So the duration for each curriculum is for each subject is 2 years. Students who choose an enriched pathway to graduation can choose different subjects in grade 11 and 12. They can also enrich their education by integrating courses offered at Mulgrave with courses that are offered by external providers, online or on-site. Independently of which pathway to graduation our students choose, the ethos, expectations, and ATLs, approaches to learning, so the executive functioning skills that we want our students to develop, are absolutely the same. Every student in the senior school receives an IB education, whichever option they choose to go for. So we expect that that with the help and support of our teachers, of course, they will develop some key ATLs: self-management, respect of deadlines, collaboration skills, etc., etc. We also, it goes without saying, have exactly the same expectation of all students, independently of which curricular choice they go for, in terms of their development of international mindedness and global citizenship attributes.
Okay, so for students who are looking at taking the full IB diploma, they will need to select 6 courses. 3 of those are going to be at the higher level, so this actually takes the curriculum content beyond the Ministry 11 and 12 level and actually can take it into first year university level. So you take 3 at the higher level, take 3 at the standard level. They will also take a subject called TOK, or Theory of Knowledge, and this is a course that they will have 1 or 2 classes per week, but it will also be encompassed in all their classes as well. They will complete the extended essay, which is similar to the personal project in the NYP. It's a culminating essay, and that will happen at the end of grade 11 going into grade 12. They also have to do CAS, Creativity, Activity and Service, which will also meet IB requirements, but it will also meet some ministry requirements. Students will continue to take character education, which will link in and develop some of the ATL skills that we've been doing at Mulgrave, but it also covers the graduation requirements for career life connections. For students who are looking at not completing the full diploma and taking the enriched pathway, we need to be careful that we are meeting requirements for university or future career and university aspirations. So the students should be taking a minimum of 5 subjects per year. But with this, the subjects do not need to be the same for year 1 and year 2. We are looking at doing at least 1 of those courses for IB credit. So they'll be doing at least 1 course for both grade 11 and grade 12 and taking the official IB exams at the end of grade 12. They can take the courses at either the standard level or higher level, but we would definitely recommend, if you are doing it for IB credit, if a higher level is available and appropriate, to do that. Students could, for some of the courses, take a provincial course online. There are also other experiences that the students could do in grade 11 and 12. Some of those could be, for example, taking work experience 12, which you can still get for ministry credit. You might also take some courses with an external provider as well. Students are still required to take Theory of Knowledge in grade 12. It covers some of the ministry requirements for looking at Indigenous ways of knowing, but it is not a requirement for taking it through into grade 11. Sorry, it's not a requirement for taking it through into grade 12. They will take an extended essay, so this could be actually done for IB credit, or it could be adapted, so we can make it a little bit shorter or provide more support. And as all students taking CAS, Creativity, Activity and Service, and character education as well. When students are thinking about the courses that they are going to take, there's a few sort of guiding principles that come through with that. For each student should really think about what they want to do. What are they going to be interested in doing for the next 2 years? Think about the courses that are going to provide them with some challenge. a little bit of stress, but not too much stress in there. Think about where their strengths are. So what do they enjoy doing? What kind of assessments work better for them? Is it going to be more practical work, hands-on work that they might be doing in film? Do they like playing with numbers and have a good aptitude for the mathematics? So all sorts of different things can come into that. So students really need to think about their strengths, but also to look at the bigger picture. If a student has an aspiration for after leaving Mulgrave, then that could guide some of their choices. But if a student doesn't know what they would like to do, then we need to make sure that we have a well-rounded course selection, which they're going to enjoy doing. Speaking to teachers will help to guide what is going to be the appropriate level, especially in the courses of mathematics and of the second language, so French, Mandarin, Chinese, Spanish. Also, think about university requirements. University should not be driving the course selection, but it should be there to inform, and that can help inform which universities. So do you need to do math analysis rather than applications? Is that the appropriate choice for you? So lots of different things to think about for course selection. Do not get sidetracked by what your friends are doing or maybe what your parent thinks you should be doing. Really think about what is best for you. So looking at the courses that the students have available in grade 11, we offer English literature in the high level and standard level, and we are offering English language and literature just at the standard level in grade 11 and 12. We offer a variety of different languages at Mulgrave, and these often follow on from the grade 10 courses. So we have French as a second language at both the higher level and standard level. We have Mandarin B at the higher level and the standard level. And we have Spanish ab initio, which students will follow on if they've been taking it in grade 10, but they can also start that at the beginning of grade 11 if they want to. With the languages, it's really appropriate that we get the teacher recommendations in these courses because we want to make sure that there is the appropriate challenge within the course. We also offer 2 other language options which will enable a student to get a bilingual diploma. So this could be the Chinese A, language and literature at the high level or the standard level. Or it could be a school-supported self-taught literature SL class. So what this means is we've had students in the past who've done Persian, French, Italian, and that's the language that they speak and write and listen to at home. So these students have met with an English teacher at school once or twice a week, where they have discussed the works of literature that they've been reading in their own language, but discuss them in English. The students for this course would then be required a tutor to support them in the specific language development outside of the classroom. In the choices for different socials, we have economics, history, geography, and philosophy, all at the high level and the standard level. And these all continue on from the grade 10 course selections. A student doesn't need to have done the course in grade 10 to choose it in grade 11. And all these 4 courses also meet the ministry requirements and graduation requirements for socials 11 or 12. There are also a couple of options online with an online company called Pomoja. Pomoja is an online company, online platform where the students are still got an IB teacher, but the teacher could be anywhere in the world. So a couple of options that the students could do there is psychology, business management, information technology in a global society. With all these 3 courses, a student will be required to take an extra provincial course to meet the Socials 11 or 12 course selection. I'm going to mention about ESS in a minute. For the sciences, we have biology, chemistry, physics at both the higher level and standard level. If a student is wanting to study one of those courses at the higher level, then they should have studied it in grade 10. We also have in the sciences environmental systems and societies, ESS, and you'll see that that comes into both group 3 and group 4. It's actually a transdisciplinary subject, and it covers the requirements for both socials and for sciences. So some students might take ESS, which will enable them to not have to do a Group 3 and a Group 4. The ESS covers the 3 and 4 and enables them to do an extra art or an extra language. In math, we have math analysis, higher level and standard level, and we are only offering the math applications at the standard level. For recommendation as to the appropriate math level, students will need to have a conversation with the math teacher. In Group 6, we have the 4 different options which follow on from the courses in Grade 10. So film, music, theatre and visual art, all at the higher level and the standard level. The students do not need to have studied these in Grade 10 to be able to continue on with them in Grade 11 and 12. Sometimes a student, because of a university aspiration, might be required to take a second science and very occasionally a second humanities. So sometimes a student might drop the Group 6, might drop the art to be able to pick up a second science, maybe a second humanities or a second language in a few cases as well. But that really does depend on what the requirements are for the university courses. It is not necessarily a given that a student will be able to take 2 from another group. So a couple of different scenarios that students might have. So these come from some students who were completing the full diploma. So a student who is looking at going into engineering, they might choose at the high level physics, math analysis and geography. And at the standard level, they are taking English, French and chemistry. The geography covers quite a lot of practical work and lab skills in there, which balances nicely with the skills that they're learning in physics and chemistry. If somebody is looking at going into the liberal arts, they might decide at the high level to do English, philosophy and film. And at the standard level, the Spanish, the biology and the math analysis. If a student is looking at going into the fine arts, with this one, a student might decide to take 2 Group 6s, so 2 art subjects. So this particular student chose to do music HL and theatre HL. To be able to do that, they needed to take the ESS, Environmental Systems and Societies, which covered both Group 3 and Group 4. So the science and the socials. They then also chose to do English at the higher level and then back it up with French SL and math applications. Please note that this student hasn't done, because they haven't done history, geography, economics or philosophy, they will need to take a ministry 11 or 12 course to meet the socials graduation requirement. If a student is looking at going into medicine, this particular student at the higher level chose to do biology and chemistry and English, just because they fancy mixing it up with a bit of English in there to challenge themselves. And then also did Chinese, economics and math analysis at the standard level. If we are to look at some students who have gone on the enriched pathway, a couple of different scenarios, that these are taken from students who have done them in the past. So one particular student was really interested in doing the fine arts. So they took film and visual art for IB credit. Both of those were at the higher level. And then all the other courses were taken at the standard level and for ministry credit only. So they did English, French, biology and math analysis. They only decided to do French in grade 11. And then in grade 12, they decided to take an online ministry course of the History 12, which enabled them to meet the BC Ministry graduation requirements for socials 11 or 12. Another student who went into a liberal arts education decided to do IB Music HL as their only IB course for credit, and then did a variety of other courses, English, geography, biology, math analysis, All those were done at Mulgrave. The biology was only done at the grade 11 level, which was a requirement for graduation with the BC ministry requirements. They then, in grade 12, took social justice as an online course. It's a ministry course. And also through working at Mulgrave, they were able to take work experience graduation credits as well, and able to actually explore music therapy and a variety of different areas through that work experience course. A student who is looking at going into the sciences but following the enriched pathway might decide to do at the higher level and for IB credit geography and biology, but for ministry credit only do English language and literature, math analysis and chemistry, all at the standard level. And then on top of that, do TOK just in grade 11 and do the extended essay for IB credit. So with these, there's lots of flexibility, lots of variation. We need to carefully look at the students' aspirations to make sure that the courses through grade 11 and 12 will enable them to meet those.
Slide 14 has a link to a video on it, student video. And this is a video of students in grade 12. They graduated in 2017, I believe. These students are sharing their reasons for choosing the courses that they did and offering advice on how to make those decisions that feel right for each individual. We're going to hear in that video from students who followed passions in science or arts and picked their courses based on a variety of interests, and also a student who kind of wasn't entirely sure what he wanted to study, and he just wanted to make sure that he had the intention of keeping all doors open for university or post-Mulgrave plans. So that student video will give you a nice little snippet of hearing some student voices on the subject. Our next slide, slide 15, what should students ask or consider? I really encourage students to go through this list of bullet points and start at the top. What do I love? What am I excited about? What do I want to research and study on my own time and not just in school? Those are the areas that we really want students to hone in on. Students in grade 11 and 12, you're studying these subjects for 2 years. You want to have a genuine interest and excitement about the potential outcomes here. So I encourage students to go through these questions. Some of them can be answered just with individual introspection and reflection, and some should involve a good conversation with family, with friends, over the dinner table, trying to figure out what really feels right for each student. The next slide, slide 16, has links to the school website, of course, and our program of study. Program of study is updated each year, and so any changes that are reflected in the upcoming year, they will be in that program of study. So again, that's a resource for students and families to take a look at together, and it'll just give you a bit of a brief synopsis of what each course would entail, but it's a good starting point. And then we encourage students, of course, to reach out to the leadership team or to reach out to the teachers, as well as the current grade 11s and 12s, and have conversations around, I've read this in the program of study, now can you give me a bit more depth, give me more understanding of what it's all about. And then throughout the course selection process, we'll start to meet with students, and we have a form. It'll be a Google form this year that students will fill out, and they're going to kind of check off what their interests are, what subjects they think they would like to study, making sure that they're picking subjects within each of the 6 subject areas and designating which would be their higher level and which would be their standard level. And then they're going to have a meeting, and they're going to have a meeting with the student, the parent, one of the leadership team, as well as a university counselor. So we're all coming together to get on the same page and hopefully cover all the bases. And those meetings will take place in end of January, February kind of timeline, and that'll have a really good opportunity for some in-depth conversation to make sure that we're really addressing each individual student and their interests.
I just want to go over the university plans for students over the next 2.5 years, because I know many of the students are thinking, of course, of life after Mulgrave, and the university planning begins in earnest during the grade 10 year. And even though we're halfway through the year, it's important that students I'm hoping, have attended many of the university presentations that were conducted during the fall. We had over 100 post-secondary institutions here on the campus, and I know a fair number of the grade 10 students did go to a number of those. If students did not go, some of the universities may be back in the springtime, and that's a good opportunity to go to the presentations, but also to perhaps even visit universities maybe during the March break or the May break in the coming new year. It really is important, and we emphasize this over and over again, that students do visit universities to get a feel for the location, the geography, the atmosphere, because remember, it's going to be where the student is going to spend, at least 4, if not 5 years, and so you need to be happy in terms of the location for that. Also, for students who are thinking of the United States, if students have not taken the SAT or ACT prep course, we would strongly advise that students sign up for the course in January, begins in January and runs until May, and the information can be gleaned from our website for that. The other thing, of course, is to attend any open houses or any fairs that may occur as well, either here on the Mulgrave campus or elsewhere. And finally, at any time, please feel free to make an appointment with any member of the University Counselling team. We send out specific allocations later in the grade 10 year, but I know all the grade 10 students have met with Mr. Atherton for a preliminary meeting, and you will be meeting again for course selection in the springtime with Ms. Verdone or Ms. Tang. In terms of looking ahead then on the next slide to grade 11, obviously grade 11 is a very, very important year. This is where you should be consolidating your research process for the universities, and certainly by the end of grade 11, you have, in essence, your list of schools that you're going to apply to at the beginning of grade 12. Yet again, it's important to visit as many universities as possible, and particularly for students, if they are applying for an early decision school to the United States, that they actually visit that school as much as possible. It's important that if students are going to express a keen interest in applying early to an American university, that they have shown a particular interest in that school. And one of the best ways, of course, is to actually visit the campus and speak to people in that institution. The other things that we want students to do throughout the grade 11 year, of course, is start to work on their application essays. The prompts for many of the essays are released in the springtime, usually around February, March. And so students who are applying to University of British Columbia or applying to the United States can start working on those essays. And even for students who are applying to the United Kingdom, even though there are no specific prompts, they can start working on their personal statement for those institutions. Also in grade 11, students who are going to apply to the United States should complete their SAT, ACT testing, and if needed, to complete their subject tests, though very few universities now in the U.S. Require the subject tests. And finally, also ask teachers for letters of recommendation. We want to make sure that students approach their teachers by the end of grade 11 so they don't bombard the teachers in grade 12 with many, many reference requests, as some teachers do like to work on the references over the summertime. And then finally, of course, into the grade 12 year, the first 3 or 4 months in particular are the busiest, where students will be submitting applications. It is important to note that in early grade 12, students who are applying to Oxford or to Cambridge or to medical school in the UK need to submit their applications in early October. And of course, the early action, early decision deadline in the US is November 1st for most schools. So we want to have applications submitted by the end of October. Otherwise, most other applications will be due in early December. So right now, the current grade 12s are just finishing their university applications. And again, in grade 12, follow up with any university visits and fairs, apply for scholarships, which there are many, and of course, also most importantly, of course, is to study hard and keep your academic scores high. Finally, we have students do work through Naviance Student. This is particularly important for students in grade 11 to 12, and Mr. Atherton has sent out the password for the parents and students in grade 10. If you do have any issues with that, you can contact Ms. Tang. But on Naviance Student, this is where students will indicate the universities or colleges they're interested in attending. This is where transcripts are managed, where you can get information about scholarships, do letters of reference requests. You can do up a CV on that as well. So there's lots of really, really important information. We also post the university visits on Naviance Students. Also on the Mulgrave Parent Portal, parents can find information also about university visits, the SAT, ACT prep classes, information on various programs, summer programs, scholarships, and all sorts of other information. So we certainly encourage parents to navigate that particular website as well.